there's something happens.
Well, this part might offend someone, so edit this out. But with all like the niche stuff there is on Instagram in the fitness world, right? Like you and I grew up where there was specific like mentors or heroes that we looked up to
Hmm.
that taught like strength and conditioning. And I was telling one of my coaches, I was like, we don't really have that anymore. We have like who is the most popular on YouTube or Instagram. But when it comes to like who is an OG who has been around, I was like, Mike Dolce and Jay Frugia like fit that for the men's health world. Like, and then I guess we're old, so Silverback we're old, but like I couldn't really think of anyone else that I was like, who would be more fitting to have. I'm just gonna ask them to come back. Like, can you think of anyone else that would like fit that avatar?
I mean, Brian Cron, but he was there. He didn't
Yeah.
speak though, did he?
No, he hates it. He's one of my coaches. Like he hates
Okay,
it.
I love Brian. He's so funny. Jay, obviously, I think Mark Bell could be fun.
Yeah,
He's a weirdo too, which I like.
yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know,
We
I think you're right on. Also, Jay is literally the reason I'm in fitness. Like I don't know if I ever told you that or not, but
no.
in 2007, I was going to school for business and psychology, and I was like, this shit's boring. So I started reading T Nation. I think I just Googled best workout routine or some shit, and then started reading T Nation. Fell into one of like Jay's articles, and then I just went back and I read everything that he had ever written, like including all of his men's health stuff. And I was like, this guy, like, so I started doing hill sprints like he was talking about. I started training like he was talking about. I did all of his renegade strength programs and stuff. And so once I graduated from school, like I basically shirked all my like academic responsibilities. And I would just read all of the T Nation's archives from 1997 until like 2009.
Oh my god.
And then I became a trainer after that. And I was like, I'll figure out what I want to do when I grow up. And here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. So
That's
that's,
so funny. No,
yeah.
I didn't know that story. And like I can't remember how long I've known him, but like he and I have a lot of mutual friends from the Perform Better circuit.
Mm.
And we kind of both grew up there. And like we were talking because we have a mutual friend slash mentor in this guy named Justin Tupper who created this program called Revolution Golf, which was like the first streaming golf platform for like golf content and lessons and stuff like that. And he sold it to Golf Channel. And he was like one of the first people to use like click funnels and like all these OG like sales type of things. And he's mentored Jay forever and me, and he like it's his house that we go to because Charlie's really good friends with him. We stay with them in Orlando when we go to Disney. So we had dinner with them last week, and I was like, yo, Jay and I want to sit on stage with you and just ask you questions. And he was like, I'm in. Because I was like, then it's just not like, hey, this guy helped my life. It's like this guy also helped Jay's life. And a lot of you know Jay and you're here because of Jay. And it just feeds into the mission of Silverback being I want everyone to win. And that's also another reason why I invite Jay, because I'm like, hey, here's a guy who also has the same exact demographic as we do. And he's back for a third year in a row because, guys, this is not a competition. Like, we're all in this together. And in the social media world, these days, people treat everything like a competition. And it's annoying.
I'm with you on that. Plus,
You know?
there's enough business for everybody, and we're also not making a dent in the American obesity epidemic. So we're probably good.
No, no. And like, people have different personalities. So like you could literally like, hello, medical services, like all these guys do TRT. You're going to resonate with obviously whoever's licensed in your state, but also like, oh, I really like this person's vibe and personality. I'm going to go to them. Same thing with coaches, like, like attracts like. So it's plenty for everybody.
Yeah, I'm with you. Cool. All right. So, want to jump into this podcast? I kind of want to talk a little bit about obviously men's health, but like masculinity a little bit as well, and some of your impressions working with men and just things that like that are like marketed to men and how we can see through the bullshit and kind of like unearth true masculinity from like the alpha wolf sigma bullshit that's being peddled on TikTok. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, please. I love
All
that.
right. I want to talk about dicks a lot too. So,
I love that too.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the sporting goods store.
that is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
I
gotcha.
love pickleball, and I just wanted to. My favorite place to get a new racket. I just love dicks.
Oh my God, yes,
Put it in a reel.
they have the best balls for tennis
Yeah.
and pickleball.
I'm excited for my editor Diego to check this out. He's gonna be like, "What are you guys talking about?" Sorry, Diego. We're having fun. It's good. It's just good times.
Yeah, whatever. Like, because on the invite I put the boner queen. Like,
Yeah.
for people whose podcasts, like, they don't really know me that well yet. They're like, so my assistant was confused as to who's coming on the podcast. So I was like, surprise.
Don't even worry about it. What did you say you were wanting to talk about? Also,
I don't know.
um,
What did I?
oh, you said get back to me on this. I'm tired.
I was probably
So
filling
we're
it
doing
out at
good.
night. And I was like, I don't know everything.
All right. We'll kick it off. We'll pause for a second, then I'll just jump in and be like, Ali, welcome back to the show. Glad you're here.
Cool.
Ali Gilbert in the flesh. Welcome back to the show. I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be fun.
Thank you for having me. Yes, we're gonna have a lot of fun. I hope people are ready. Brace yourself. This is not PG-13.
No, we're going to say a lot of weird words in this one. So don't listen in the car.
Earmuffs.
Maybe do listen in the car. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends. That's a whole other conversation of how you raise your kids. But
if you're going to listen with your kids, they're going to learn some new stuff today. That's right.
They're going to be educated.
Ali, this is like, I think the first episode I'm recording with my new show name, which is called Get Leaner and Live Longer with Nate Palmer, which I think more accurately reflects kind of where we're headed with the show. Plus, I haven't really talked about low carb or keto in like 50 episodes. So I feel like this is probably a good switch to make. But just to jump right in, just like, let's get into the hard hitting questions that guys want to know about, because you're obviously the queen of men's health. What's something you wish men knew about their dicks that has nothing to do with sex?
I would say that the fact that they feel that they should be walking around horny 24/7 is not reality. Maybe when you're like 14 or 15 or something, but a lot of guys, like, as they get older, they're like, why do I not want to bang like every 5 seconds? And it's just not normal. I don't think even, like, porn stars get paid to do that, but like, I don't think they walk around like that. So I would like for them to appreciate the fact that if it works, it's a really good thing. And if it works multiple times a day, that's great. But if it doesn't, that doesn't mean you're broken or something's wrong with you or anything is going sideways or curved or up or down.
Thank you for the clarification at the end there. All right. Well, not exactly what I thought you were going to say, but man, I really was kind of keeping that open ended for you.
Well, what did you think I was going to say?
I would talk about blood flow, canary in the coal mine. If you're having like ED or something like that, then it's probably a symptom of bigger issues. Kind of where I thought you might go, but again, I was letting it flow.
I mean, I could go that route, like the scientific route, like if you are having ED, and let's like define ED, because a lot of guys think like, oh, I couldn't get it up Saturday night. I have ED, and they like drank and were really tired from either training or work or whatever. It's like literally the inability to maintain a solid erection over and over and over and over. And there are definitely treatments and stuff like that. It does require talking to a medical professional. But if this starts happening and your lifestyle is not that great, it can be a red flag as to heart disease and stuff like that, because ED does correlate highly with heart disease. So just something to think about.
That checks out. So I was at your Silverback Summit this past November here in Arizona. It was amazing. Had some amazing speakers. We were just talking about that, kind of like the cool way you would structure a seminar that wasn't boring and didn't make me want to stand in the hallway like the entire time, like most seminars. But I forget who it was. One of your speakers said something basically about like erectile dysfunction or like issues maintaining an erection, not always being physiological. A lot of times they're coming from like a mental place. And I thought that was really interesting. Like how they were talking about how it might be better to do like some counseling and talk to somebody before you get on a bunch of drugs. And I thought that was like such a cool perspective.
That was probably Dave Lee. Dave talks a lot about that stuff. I've learned a lot from him regarding that. Because let's see, there's many directions I can go with this. So like, I've talked to clients of ours, or just like guys like in the DMs who struggle with this. And sometimes it goes as far back as to their first experience with having a girlfriend. Like there's one guy, for example, um, I can't remember if he was either really small or really big or it was shaped weird. I wish I could remember, but like his girlfriend commented on it, and I think they were like 16. And that has stayed with him all the way through adulthood. So he gets like a performance anxiety from that, thinking that, whoever he's with is going to comment on that. And it makes sense because, like, similarly to how we're conditioned through childhood, like childhood trauma and stuff, if we got yelled at as a kid, like we're just going to think that if someone yells at us, like we just shut down basically. So that can be a part playing into that. If they've experienced where they couldn't perform for whatever reason, then that can also stay with them. And then they can kind of psych themselves out in a way and have a performance anxiety. Or if there's somebody who's like, one night stand or just not their partner, you know, I've stopped saying, if it's not their partner and it's a new person, there's the nervousness that comes along with that. That's also, something mental, Um, but there's guys who can't get an erection for their wife and then can for their girlfriend, which is also another conversation that does happen. So there's a lot of the psychosocial, emotional, mental piece that goes into that. And there's also the stress impact that it has on erection. Like I think the what's the word, analogy that I always use is how stress impacts is similar to a PR in any type of lift. And I usually use the squat as an example, where if you're, squatting, you're coming out of the hole, you've got like, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 pounds on your back, and you're like struggling, that you got the elbow shake going on, your like eyes are bulging, and you're like about to fart or like shit your pants. And that was a great effect right there. Did I do that?
I don't know how you did that. That's amazing that it gave us a firework emoji when it said you said shit your pants. So
That's awesome. Shit your pants. Do it again. But like that whole feeling of like I'm coming out of the hole and I'm seeing God. Like at that moment to pop a boner is like, I don't know. I've never met a guy that can do that, but that's very stressful to be PRing a squat coming out of the hole like that. So that's the same impact that if you have like a deadline at work or you're just completely stressed the fuck out because of whatever, your body's going to be like, hey, yeah, let's procreate. Yeah. So that's the analogy I usually use that kind of resonates.
that makes a lot
Uh,
of sense.
Thank you. Because as you know, social media, they'll come at me and find some, unique reason as to like why they think they can get a boner during that. I'm like, whatever, bro. Like,
Social media is filled with fun facts like that. I yeah. So I do feel like though a lot of times as men, it's almost this like expectation that like you were saying earlier, like you're always horny, walking around with a semi chub, like you could, like you can switch gears immediately. Like there's this expectation of masculinity, and so many things are marketed to men as a way of either improving your masculinity or you should buy this because you're masculine. I'm a victim to it as well. Like all my beard products are have like lumberjacks on them and like skulls and axes. I get it. I like that. I feel like it raises my testosterone. I'm not totally sure if that's true or not. But what are some things that you find like the worst things that are marketed to men as masculine, but are actually negative or hurting their health?
oh, that's a great question. Um, and I can't wait for the trolls to be like, what does she know? She's a dude. She's got short hair. Um, that will come. So I think it's more like, okay, so let's back up and talk about like, let's try to put a definition on masculinity because that has definitely changed many times over. And I think now, like the definition of masculinity is like, you know, the word
Andrew Tate, right?
the alpha word now has been butchered, but it was an alpha energy and it was like, roar, like I'm a battle warrior and, I'm a dick basically, right? Then that got labeled as toxic, due to certain movements in social narratives. And so I think that left guys confused because they were like, okay, so do I compliment a woman or do I not? And women want to be independent. So do I hold the door for her or do I not? Because some women might yell at me, some won't. And I've had guys tell me stories like that, like they pulled the chair out for a woman or held the door and they, like, the girl got pissed. And I was like, that's so strange, because I think part of it is generational as well. Like, I'm 43, so I am attracted to like a Renaissance man style masculinity. So what does that mean? I would define my husband as being that type where, you know, he's not into drama, he's not into like gossip or anything, he's supportive, he takes care of me, and I don't mean financially, but he makes sure that, like, I don't forget my wallet, or like, just looking out for me in ways like that. Pulls the chair out for me, holds the door, opens the car door, like stuff like that. I find, you know um what's it called? Chivalry.
Catharsis.
Chivalry.
Okay.
Chivalry, like chivalry, I find is attractive, but there are people out there who don't find that. But I would label that as more like Renaissance man. Like, you know some people say, oh, he smokes cigars, that's masculine. So there's so many different labels that I'm not sure that we could actually put a true definition, because the definition changes as society evolves. However, I have also found it to be wildly different as to what it's projected to be on social media than what it really is in person. So, talking to so many men, being around so many men, dealing with a lot of men's issues, a lot of guys feel that if they are vulnerable or if they do communicate or show any type of emotion, they're considered not masculine. When in reality, if a guy can show emotion but control his emotions, I find that very masculine, because he has the ability to show certain sides of him, but then can still maintain like a masculine outlook.
I also find that like if you're repressing your emotions because you're afraid of what other people are going to think of you, that's not very masculine energy, in my opinion.
No.
If you're someone who like, I watched Inside Out with my kids, and I've cry every time, and so I feel like if you can like cry in front of your kids, your family, and you don't have to be like, no, crying's not for, we don't, men don't do that. Like this is just unapologetically who I am, and I feel like that's the kind of the energy that I perceive as being more masculine, as being like, I'm okay with myself. I know who I am and I'm okay with being that way. And you don't have to like it. You don't have to
Yeah.
like that I bawl at the end of Moana. It doesn't matter to me.
No, and
Ohana means family, Ali.
I know all. I've been trained to learn all the Disney things, and I forget most of them, but that's another story. So, yeah, and I think like it's funny because when we talk about this, like everyone's going to have their own opinion, and you're allowed to have your own opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying what I say is like the law. I'm just speaking on from what my experience has been, and how I view somebody as being masculine. Like, you know, someone who's passive, somebody who has trouble making decision and taking the lead. I don't personally find that very masculine, because like if someone's constantly asking me, well, like, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to eat? Like, I love when my husband's like, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, this is what time we have to leave. I'm like, yes, take charge, right?
I,
Because I'm
I'm learning this also kind of in my marriage. We've been married for 14 years this year. And um, my wife is very organized and very assertive, and she has no problem asking for what she wanted. So for a long time, I was like, well, what do you want to do? Like, and I thought I was like being progressive and kind by like getting her opinion. But what I've come to find out in the last couple of years, especially since we like having kids, and she seems like at an all-time low in terms of mental energy, is
Mhm.
that she doesn't want to have to make all the decisions. You know, she is very happy with me being like, we're doing this. She's like, thank you. I didn't want to have to decide that thing. And so
Yeah.
that was something that's kind of new-ish in our relationship, but it's been really helpful in like just like like hitting her love language.
Oh yeah, and that's a huge one too, because it's funny because my husband and I have gone through that too. Like, we have completely opposite love languages. Like, I am all words of affirmation, and he is totally not. Like, words do nothing for him. Like a nice card or anything, like he's just like, his response is like, okay. And I'm like, how do you say okay? Like, it's just, that's how he operates. He's also a genius, so they're at a whole other spectrum level. But like, working through that, and also for me personally, like, I mean, I've been training mostly guys since I was like 25 years old. So I heard a lot of what the trouble was in their relationships. And then I was like, well, I don't want to be like that. So I tried to be like, you know, the cool girl, and like not high maintenance, and, very bro, because I thought guys just wanted a girl who was bro. And then I realized that that's actually not necessarily what they want. So my husband actually would pull the chair out for me at restaurants, and I totally would like miss that cue, because then I would just go grab the chair to like pull it out for myself. And or I would just not wait for him to do it, and then he'd be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What?" Like, I was so like oblivious to the fact that he was trying to be a gentleman, and I'm like, "Oh wow, sorry. I didn't want you to feel you had to do that." Like, I thought that was like how I was programmed. So I had to relearn a lot of that stuff. But I am also very disorganized, and he is the organized one. And it's funny because most women in a lot of relationships, like, they handle the finances, they handle like planning trips and all that stuff. I am terrible at that. And I was like, I have to assign that to you, because his standards are very high, that if I like fuck up the plan, because I'm chill, I'm just like, oh, we'll go with the flow or whatever. And he's like, no, there has to be a plan and we must execute it. Then it's like, fuck, I don't want to be responsible for that. So it's learning that, but also I do want him to kind of take that over and take the lead, and make the decisions. So it's funny because I think a lot of couples go through that, especially like Gen X or millennials, or the in betweeners, where, you were raised a certain way. And nowadays, like, it's completely different, because it's not mostly the woman at home with the father leaving for work like it used to be traditionally. And you know what? That actually, this is a topic I've wanted to talk about for a while in some format, because I was talking about this with several of my friends and my clients, where they are either a physician or they have a career, and so does their spouse, right? So if you have two people that have very demanding careers, very time demanding, excuse me, and it takes a lot, when you raise kids, it's a whole different dynamic. And what they said to me was that there's a different pressure now on men, and you can let me know if this is true because we don't have kids, but there's a different pressure on men to not necessarily pick up the slack, but also to participate in a lot of the childcare and responsibilities like that, that limits them in their growth potential in their career. For example, traveling to events, going to seminars, doing certain things. Whereas in the past, it wasn't so much like that, because the woman did not have that type of career as well. It was more like the man was the main breadwinner. And I was like, that's really interesting, because I wondered if a lot of other guys felt that, or if even that was like a safe topic to even discuss. Have you ever talked about that or thought about that, or have any?
No, I do know that, like, I've heard the statistic that millennial fathers spend about 4 times as much time with their kids than our fathers did.
Hmm.
I never had considered the idea that it could be limiting in our careers. But what I've seen, especially with like the men I hang out with, I'm in this group called Front Row Dads, and
Mhm.
their big idea is that they are family men with businesses, not businessmen with families. And so a lot of the people that I talk to on a regular basis don't want to go and travel all the time, because they really prioritize the time with their family. So it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily feel like they're being limited. They're making choices that are more closely aligned with like the direction they want to put themselves in life. So I think that there could be a give and a take there. Like if you are really, really highly career oriented and you feel stifled, that's probably bad, because like you're gonna build resentment there. But on the other hand, like I think more and more men are being allowed societally to be at home with the kids more, be more involved in like the day-to-day processes, which is probably a big win for a lot of men, and something that maybe our parents didn't necessarily feel like they had the ability to do. So it seems like it could cut both ways.
Yeah, I found that interesting because I was like, I can't tell because I don't have children, but I can say that like if we did, obviously if we had kids, then priorities change no matter what. Like having two dogs is, it's a lot. Two dogs and kids, like, I don't know how parents do it. I commend you guys highly.
No dogs. That's the trick.
So fuck. But like there's times in my career that I'm thinking, well, if we had kids or if we were about to have kids, like I wouldn't have been able to do XYZ because both of us travel. So it's like one of us would have to stay home. And that could be very selfish to think of like, how could she think like that? But again, if it's not in my life, then it's not a priority, right? So like, say I had a baby tomorrow, like obviously that becomes a priority and I would have to say no to multiple different things across the next, however many months to a year. But I just found it an interesting topic as more women have careers nowadays than they did like years ago. How that gets managed because it is a huge thing, obviously, and then being a single parent is like a whole another level of responsibility. And
Oh
like
my
you
gosh. Yeah. Massive respect for the single
said,
parents out there.
yeah, yeah. Like one of our coaches is a single parent. We have a lot of clients who are single parents. It's a lot of sacrifice and struggle, and yeah, it's hard because then there's people who are like, well, you can't have both. You can't have a family and the career, and I'm like, I don't know
You just got
because
to invent it. I feel like that's not necessarily true. You just have to kind of be creative with it. And that's why being an entrepreneur, being your own boss is probably the way to do both of those things, have your cake and eat it too. And
Mhm.
I'll say this, like I just got offered a position as a high school football strength coach for the season, but it's like a 5:30 to 7 p.m. slot 4 days a week. And that's family time, that's dinner time. So it wasn't like, yes, I could make more money. Yes, I could probably advance my career that way, but I want to spend time with the family. Like that's a priority for me. So like that is not even a thing that I was not like, oh no, my career, it was like, no,
Yeah,
like this is what I've chosen. This is important to me. And if I had less money and more time with my family, then I'm going to be happy because I feel like in my mind, the only people who are going to remember that I worked late or worked long hours are my kids.
100%. And obviously, there's deeper levels to these
Sure.
discussions too, because there are people who are in the wrong relationship who end up having kids that didn't want children, and then they're stuck, for lack of better terms. There's those who it was like an oops, and
Mm-hmm.
then it redirected their life plan and stuff like that. But I can say there's nothing I love more than just being home with my dogs and my husband. It's great. But I do love traveling as well, and that has definitely furthered my career. But I'm at the point where I just want to be home for like longer than 3 weeks because I really
I feel you
enjoy
on
that.
that. I
You
love
know?
home. Home is great.
Yeah,
So
it's
speaking of like, men kind of getting into their like midlife and trying to like figure out the balance between work, family, training, all these things. Is there like a menopause moment that guys go through that they might not realize is happening? Like dig into like what's the midlife crisis moment or trigger that you see with a lot of guys?
it used to be buying a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say nowadays it's more those guys who are in their 50s and 60s who spent so much time prioritizing their work and their family and providing for the family. They never thought about themselves. And so they get to a point where they're like, I don't want to end up like my grandfather or like my father or, whomever health wise. So they have this like aha moment where they're like, I need to take care of myself. And it can be a struggle for them because to invest in themselves is usually not something they've really done. They've also invested in their children's college fund or their wives or family, like they've poured everything into everyone else, and so then it's time for them to take care of themselves, and they're kind of like, I don't even know where to start because they feel so not bad, but they just feel weird about investing in themselves. But it's also, if you're not around, then this legacy doesn't continue, and everything that you've done for yourself and your family to set you guys up for a future, it's not going to be a fun future if it's full of hospital bills and medications and you can't go certain places because of your physical condition and stuff like that. So that's typically usually like the big moment where they're like, oh shit, I'm 40, I'm 45, I'm 50. I'm like, oh my God.
So
You know,
like now guys want the six pack instead of the red Corvette.
sometimes, yes, it's, I would say, like I've talked about, you've heard me talk about the CEO flex being something money can't buy, which is abs and a physique that when you walk into a room, you're stared at and people are like, yo. Um, a lot of guys do want that, but a lot of them also just want to know they're going to be around for a while because their kids graduated college. You're like, oh my gosh, my daughter's going to get married. If I can't walk down the aisle without needing a post workout shake, that's going to be a problem.
How do you have a conversation with someone who's like maybe in that like 55, 60 plus range, kind of maybe the patriarch of the family, whatever else has either just put their health on the back burner for their career, for their family, for whatever reason. And now you're like, yo, if you want to go on that Europe trip with your granddaughter, like we need to get some stuff going. How do you have that conversation with that person who maybe has not prioritized health up until that point?
The easiest way is if it is a family member, a friend, or somebody who has visually, like they've experienced this person deteriorated quite quickly and then they went through all these issues. They don't want to end up like that. So it's painting the picture of that could be your future too. Sometimes it's through blood work because men, again, this goes back to like masculinity, where showing any type of weakness is frowned upon in their mind. And reminding them of the fact that, like, you know, you didn't take care of XYZ and they think that they're invincible. Sometimes it takes something like right in front of them that's tangible from blood work to show, if we continue on this trajectory, these numbers are not going to get any better. And then you will end up like your grandfather or your father or something like that. And it has to be a very transparent, honest conversation. So I'm not known to sugarcoat things. So if anything, I would probably have to like chat GPT how I say certain things because they can come off very direct. But it is a very open conversation of like, you know, hey, listen, like think of your family, like you're here because you're thinking of your future, but I would hate to see my father in this condition. And that's kind of what you watched when your father went through it or something similar to that. And it's also making them realize what that future looks like if they don't. So, what are the consequences of not taking care of yourself? Staying the same, continuing to feel awful, seeking out 14 different opinions, health professionals that are all telling you different things. Like that, you know, there's a lot of directions with that, and it can be contextual, but it's usually getting them to open up as to like what is the real reason you want to handle this, and how would that make you feel if you handled it, and getting them to open up in a way that maybe they never had because no one asked them these questions, or they just were never forced to be open about that, and there was never an environment that they felt safe in talking about this stuff. But deep down, like a lot of these guys do get scared, but they don't want to be yelled at. Like you can't scold them and say like, "Oh, you're awful for not taking care of this." Like that's not going to do anything. It's more the conversation of like you're better than this, and you know that, and you're not somebody who's going to settle for this type of mediocre health future. So you have to kind of hype them up a little bit for the morbid things, so to speak, so that they do want to take action and understand that because they have to get out of their own way. That's
Yeah.
usually the biggest thing is they're in their own way. They don't know how to get out. And sometimes it you know, thumbs up. Sometimes it takes a lot of emotional digging.
Yeah, that's fair. Or you just send them your way and you can have that conversation with them instead.
Yeah, have them, you know, come talk to me. For some reason, I just like I really truly enjoy that. I think being a female in men's health gives me that ability because I am very empathetic. I'm very understanding. I'm very patient. Um,
And
and
even
I
if you come off as more direct, it still doesn't feel maybe like you're getting like yelled at or getting a talking to.
thank you for saying that because it's funny when people started telling me, my content is like, they're very direct and you're no BS. And I love how you tell it like it is. And I always say, like, I don't know how else to tell things. And I think I got that from my mom, because my mom would just say whatever. So the fact that you're getting the same person that you're seeing on social media is a good thing. Because I think when you talk to somebody in person who's wildly different than they are in social, like, the trust level definitely goes from here to here.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Or you're like, where's that Ferrari you had? And they're like, oh, that
oh yeah, Turo.
for
Right?
sure mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely for the day. So,
All
but
right.
yeah,
Well, with
I don't want to deliver things in a traumatic format. And, you know, despite what people may think, like, I'm very direct, like, I'm not. I don't scold, I don't yell, I'm not confrontational. I'm just more like, this is the reality. That's all. But don't hate me, I like you. Hi.
I have a hard time hiding my I might not be saying something, but my face is definitely saying stuff a lot. So even on like Zoom calls, when people are like, "Are you mad at me?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Well, it looks like you're mad at me." Not mad.
Right.
What do you say that? Speaking of rented Ferraris, though, what is the biggest red flag that you spot on like a guy's Instagram page that tells you that his testosterone's in the tank?
Oh, oh, I mean, if they're like outright commenting bullshit on my page. Like, insecurity is very easy to spot. Um, I would say, like, maybe it's not so much on someone's Instagram page as it is in their stories, because stories can tell a lot. I think when people say things as if they were the first to say it, or they claim, like, I talked about this 10 years ago, and they're constantly talking about that, there's some void that was not filled there in terms of validation. And that's, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but, like, for me, it's, you know narcissism is very easy to spot, just dealing with narcissists so often in my profession, that from a mile away, if someone starts speaking in absolutes when it's not really their thing to talk about. Like, if you invented the light bulb, you can go on social media and say you invented the light bulb. And now people will troll me and say they didn't have social when the light bulb was invented. Whatever. Like, the point I'm trying to make.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes, Ali.
God, it's like, why even bother trying to think about how I word things? It doesn't matter anyway. But
No, it doesn't matter.
anyway, getting
Plus,
back to your question, like, somebody having a nice car, like, that's not actually a turn off for me, because I like cars. So, I'm kind of like, oh, is this actually yours? Or, like, what is it?
mhm.
But that's a hard question for me to answer. That's why I say it's more through the stories, because a picture, you could only, I mean, we can judge any picture, right? Like, there's no context in photos, but when you see somebody as they are on stories and what they're talking about, then it gives you a little bit more insight into, like, what direction they're trying to go with stuff. So,
Yeah, that is the wrong answer, though. I'm sorry to tell you that. The right answer is actually when someone has a profile picture of a lion. That's how you can tell. That was maybe next time you'll get it right. But yeah, you completely messed that one up.
oh man, or there is a thing with a guy holding a fish,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I laugh, because then it was like a bunch of my friends who were like, I fucking love fishing. And I'm like, I'm not talking about you,
But
but
kind of, yeah.
kind of talking about you. Like, what? I don't get it. Because it's like, I don't know. There's a certain percentage of trolls on the internet that all have a profile picture with them holding a fish. Please tell me what the connection is. I don't know.
Well, when you're holding a fish, that makes it you're more able to comment on women's bodies on social media. That's the thing. That's the trend I've noticed.
Oh, see, I'm
Um,
so old. I don't
I felt like so I had a man bun from like 2018 to 2021.
know. Mm.
Yeah, and I would get a lot of comments on social media about my man bun, and just 100% of the time, 110% of the time, it was someone with no profile picture who was definitely bald. Always, always, always. And I'd be like, I bet you're bald. And I would type that in and I would go look and I'd be like, look it happened again. So I feel like that's one of like the things is just keep your mouth shut. There's a quote I really like. It's never miss a good opportunity to shut the fuck up.
I
I
mean,
think that just applies to life as well as social media, because the most like the more people talk is the more they're insecure about something, or the more they blab about something that seems like the more they're lying.
oh,
Just zip it.
yeah, just yeah, shut up. Like Jay Ferrugia posted something on his stories that I think I screenshot it and shared it, which he was talking about like what grown man takes the time out of his day to comment something on someone else's page that is like, you know, rude or disrespectful or something, or like, and I'm like, you know, exactly, like what compels somebody not only to do that, but like I've had people do it on multiple of my posts, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but do you have like all the time in the world to be a miserable human being? You know, and that's what it is, really, is like these people are miserable, and you know, you're clearly pissing them off by whatever you're talking about, but it doesn't matter what you talk about, because no matter what it is, someone's going to get upset. And that's kind of what you have to deal with as a figure or influencer or whatever the hell you want to call it. Is you're not going to be for everybody, and that's okay, because if you are for everybody, then
For nobody.
you're for nobody. Or
Yep.
if you're everything, you're for nothing. So you have to kind of stand for something. But sometimes standing for like I love sunny days, then it's like, okay, everybody who loves rain is going to hate you. I'm okay.
Wow, are you saying that you don't like clouds? Wow, are you saying that cloud seeding isn't real? Wow, do you hate the environment? You're like, no, I just like the. Is that okay? Okay, I just like
Like,
mangoes. Oh, you don't like oranges? You're not into citrus? You don't think vitamin C is a real thing? You don't deal with scurvy? Thanks,
yeah,
social media. It's been really fun.
yeah, just talk about anything nutrition related.
Well, you love to troll people with talking about your Sour Patch Kids and vodka pre workout. So that's
It, I mean, because it is funny. It's, you know, I blame Ryan McGinn for that, but
that's fair.
kind of perpetuated that. But I'm just, you know, there was a direction that I was going with that, and I completely forgot what it was.
Let's go in a different direction.
Okay, let's do that.
All right, to wrap up the episode, I want to do a testosterone booth myth or magic rapid fire question where I say something to you and you tell me, is it a myth? Is it fake? Or is it magic? Does it work? Okay.
Okay.
Testosterone booth, myth or magic. Ali Gilbert. Ready?
Yes.
Pine pollen,
Myth.
cold plunges,
Myth.
deer antler spray,
Myth.
sex before workouts.
Like, as in it's bad?
Will sex before your workouts boost your testosterone?
No. Myth.
Semen retention.
Myth, but like there's studies that people are going to say, you know, myth.
Okay. Fasting.
Myth.
Statins.
Like boosting testosterone?
Yeah.
Myth.
Sunning your balls in your beehole.
I've tried it. That's a myth.
TRT.
Yes. What was I supposed to say? Magic?
Magic.
Yes.
Injecting endogenous testosterone. Boost your testosterone. So weird. Tonga Ali.
Myth.
Ashwagandha.
Myth.
Zinc and magnesium before bed.
Myth.
Wow. I thought that was real. Eating.
Well, okay. So there is context to that, but when you only give me two choices to answer, it's
Yeah,
kind of tough. I'm not trying to be that person who's like,
well, actually, there's a 2016 study in the Journal of
yeah.
Deer Antler Spray. Anyways, ashwagandha.
You know, the way I usually answer that is, okay, so when it comes to like test boosters, so yes, there are nutrients and things and vitamins that if you're deficient in can rob you of some testosterone, but it's more so in the context of like, is it going to get me to optimal levels? And the answer is 99% no, pretty much 100% no. Because if a guy's like test level, say he's at like 250, and then he starts taking ashwagandha, deer antler spray, like everything you mentioned, on paper, okay, maybe testosterone will go to like 350, but that still sucks. And you're not necessarily going to feel that, even if it's 450, like it's not going to stay up there, and it's not something that you're going to like physically feel like you would the benefits of testosterone replacement. And there's a reason why they're not used in lieu of testosterone replacement, because the best thing to replace testosterone is literally the hormone itself. It's not all these other directions to try to make it happen without actually using the one logical thing that your body is not producing.
It feels like you're going to say no to the rest of these then, but I'm going to ask them anyways.
Okay.
Celery juice. Eating animal testicles.
It's magical, but it's a myth.
Oysters.
Myth.
Wearing boxers that block Wi-Fi signals from your phone. Grounding. Cold plunges while taking a weight vest walk and doing gratitude.
Oh, that's magic.
That's what I thought. Yes, thank you. Finally got one. Ali Gilbert, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you. Ali, you have your next Silverback Summit takes place in Orlando in November 2025. So if you are a man who is interested in health, then come see the Queen of Men's Health.
And all my friends, because it's about everybody, not just me.
And she's got some solid friends. You should show up.
Yeah, you should really come.
Thanks for being here, Ali.
Thank you.